Simon, I think we're live. Give me a high sign. What do you think? Are we live?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We are live.
Hello, unstoppable yippies. How are you, young people? Happy Saturday. So, Simon and I have been playing tricks for the past couple of weeks, and we have not been live because life has been lifing. It's summertime where Simon is, it's summertime where I am. So, I'm a little bit excited today. I've got on my smiley face. Maybe you think it's a lame t shirt. I'm like all energetic and excited. And I think we've got a very interesting topic for you all today. But first, let me just take a deep breath and chill and say, hey, Simon, happy Saturday.
You
How are
chilled for about zero point 0.1 microseconds then. Well done. That was a real deep
you?
chill.
Was a little amped up. A little amped up. Okay.
Yeah, I'm loving it. You've got the same you're just matching the face with your t-shirt.
Yes,
Yeah, I'm
absolutely.
good. Happy Saturday.
Happy Saturday. Happy Unstoppable Live. Welcome, everybody. Hello, hello. Okay, we're so grateful that we get this opportunity to just vibe with you for a bit. So, let me tell you what we're on to this week. Simon and I thought it might be kind of cool. And this topic, I don't know how well it matches my energy because I'm all psyched up. And then you're going to hear what we're talking about. And you're like, okay, Monique, why in the world are you so excited? Well, because I just get excited. So here's our topic for today. It's a question. If you have ever wished or wondered if you could be different, like, or even let me say it another way, have you ever wished that you could be different? Maybe there's something about yourself that you wish was a little bit different. I could use me as an example. Like, I'm really a very mellow kind of gal. I have to like flip a switch to get all, Monique version. So, I don't know. Maybe you can relate to this question, but Simon and I have asked ourselves, like, if we could be different. And I'm going to leave it to my great buddy over here to just make this make sense. Simon, let me just lob the ball over to you because I don't know what I've done with
Oh,
that question. Yes,
thank you.
good catch. Good catch. Where are we going with this?
Yeah, thank you. So this is such a great question because I think in today's world, and we were talking about this just before we came on air, we were talking about TikTok and social media and YouTube and all. Well, we weren't talking about those. We're just talking about TikTok. But in today's society, more than ever, I think there is just a pandemic, just a great number of people who are just comparing themselves to other people, to other people's lives, to how they look, how they're behaving, what they're up to, etc., 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 etc. And in my opinion, and I don't think I'm alone on this, and I think if a lot of you just kind of look at it a little bit more in depth, a little bit under the microscope, then you will come to realize that yeah, it's just what kind of game are we playing with comparing ourselves to so many other people and so many other things and circumstances that are going on around. Now, it can be very helpful, but it can be very damaging for us as well. And yeah, I think I just start with just telling you about when I was growing up. And when I was growing up, I think I may have mentioned this before, but in case you weren't around when I did, I will tell you that when I was little, I would say from the age of about 4 or 5, little cutie, up until, maybe like 18, 19, 20 years old,
Wow.
I was very involved in the church, and I was in the choir, and this was very very a very very classic kind of choir sort of look, with the kind of red robe, like it's called a ruffle that goes around. I'm not too sure if they must exist still. I'm sure they do in some places.
Very similar.
Easy, yeah, and so when I was 4 or 5 years old, it was great. I didn't care. You don't really care that much when you're 4 or 5 years old about stuff. But as time progresses, um, you know, I think you might be kind of getting where I'm going with this. As time progresses, it kind of starts becoming a bit more uncool to be standing in a choir and singing about God. By the way, I'm not preaching. I'm not, I'm not. This isn't a God channel. I'm just telling you about I was going to say my past life, but it's actually my life. It feels like a past life. And yeah, I kind of had, a bit of a divergence in my kind of, in the way I felt about things when I was growing up. Because on one side, I was like the angelic choir boy, just singing about God and dressed in with a ruffle and, in choir robes and being very angelic and, butter wouldn't melt in my mouth.
Mhm.
But on the other hand, I wanted to be the cool kid. I wanted to, be getting up to mischief and, doing other things that other people were doing as well. Yeah, there was just kind of like a bit of a mismatch in what was going on. And so this actually continued for quite a few years, until I just realized that I actually had developed two completely separate lives, two completely kind of separate groups of friends. Like one group of friends was my group of friends that was in the choir, and we were very, very close. I still have people that I talk to, nowadays from my choir days who sang in the same choir as me. Some of them I went to school with, some of them went to different schools, but we just all got on really well, and we it it was actually a lot of fun. But on the other side, I played rugby for school, and as I started to get older, rugby starts getting a bit more crazy. And so yeah, I had my rugby friends who I hung around with, and there was, for a while, I just kind of really felt a bit unsure, a bit kind of, yeah, just like there was this split personality going on. But until I realized, and fully came to terms with that, it's okay to have different groups of friends doing different groups of things. And kind of the moment that I realized that, or maybe it wasn't a moment, maybe it was a bit of a longer of a transition and kind of working things out. It kind of just came together as my life, and I did different stuff and I hung out with different people and, we got up to different things. So yeah, that's just one aspect of looking at, you know, so what was your question that you rephrased again?
Like,
It was
you ever wish that you were different?
Yeah, yeah. So definitely at some point along the track, not when I'd kind of comes to term what not when I'd come to terms with, having these different groups of friends and kind of leading kind of different sort of parallel lives, seemingly, um, you know. But at some point, I think up until the realization of that, I really kind of started to question and wish that I perhaps wasn't in the choir, and that, I didn't really, I felt like it just kind of like didn't fit into my life in some way. Um, but at the same time, like I said, I had some amazing friends in there, and we all used to hang around a lot together. But yeah, there was that phase definitely when I kind of wished that, yeah, I just kind of had one life. It would just kind of been a bit more easier. But yeah, so that was just a little story of mine, and it kind of starts to dive into different things that we do, but it doesn't talk to how we feel about things if we want to like change our hair, or we don't like our nose, or we don't like the way we look in some kind of way. So maybe I'm just going to toss the ball back over to you, Monique, and you may or may not want to talk about that, or just talk about other stuff which may have came up whilst I was talking.
That you offered me a chance to catch the ball again, and then I smashed the ball in front of everybody, which I caught it, and then I smacked it. So Simon, I can relate to everything that you just described. What's really funny is I think when you said this about being in the choir, I don't remember if I shared this or not, but I sang in a choir too when I was young, except it wasn't a choir with song.
Now,
It was a very charismatic choir with like a band tapping and singing loud, and it was so.
yeah, wow, mine wasn't.
So in any case, I didn't start asking myself if I wanted to be different until much later in life. I,
Hmm.
I didn't really have the opportunity. I think there was this quiet question in the back of my mind, like, what if I was a kid that was hanging out and doing social things with kids at school? But I really didn't have the opportunity to do that. So when I was much younger, I just was the kid at church in the choir, doing all the things. And I loved it. I had such a wonderful time, like you said, with all the friends and things. But we can also relate to when I was younger, when you said if your nose were different. I got called some really awful names by family members and kids at school about like the shape of my nose. And I remember wishing I could be different. And I also remember like being a young girl going through puberty and like having other people around me and like I'm just going to be transparent because some of our audience is teens. Like I remember being like this stick thin little something or other, wishing that I had hips. Like I can remember when I just like wished that I could be different. But what I also remember is around the time that I became a high schooler and going through college, I had this opportunity to just like notice that there were so many people who were just doing whatever they wanted to do, right? Like they were doing their version of what made sense. And I also noticed that there were people that weren't constantly looking around and comparing themselves to others, like deciding if they were okay because of what other people were doing. There was this value that I had been taught as a girl, and it's a biblical principle, but I'm not going to say it that way because that's really not the point. The concept was the person who compares themselves to others is not wise. And the reason that I think that phrase is is because when you put yourself in the game of comparison with other people, it's like a game you will never win. Maybe the kids or the teens listening, watching, have heard of this quote: an original is always better than a copy, right? Like if you try your best to be someone else, you will only ever be the second best version of that. So I think the bigger aim is when we are wishing we could be something different, we might ask ourselves, why? Why am I so eager to be something different? Is it because I think something's missing from myself? And maybe what can I do that might help me be more accepting of whatever gift, talent, unique quirk it is that I have? Like enjoying singing in the choir or enjoying playing rugby. And Simon, I love the last thing that you shared, which is, and what if you could be a kooky, crazy person like Monique is, who has serious principal vibes, and we'll get out in the front yard with a kickball and have fun with the best of them. Like, what happens if you get to explore like two different sides of your personality and enjoy both? You said that for a while you kind of like did both things and even maintained relationships with people out of both crowds. So I just love the idea that you can make the rule. You can decide if you're going to be one thing or try out something else. If you wish you could be different, then I would like to say you probably can be. I just am a little bit curious about why you want to. Is it because you think people will like you better? Well, I don't know if that's true. You could try it out. Most of us who do typically find they don't really like us better when we're different. They might like us different when we're different, but they don't necessarily like us better. So I don't even know if that was helpful, Simon, but it is what came up for me when I was listening. Beautiful story about your choir days and kind of what it was like with the different crowd with rugby and all of that.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I think you're hitting on some very important points, which I'm sure that we'd both like to, be focusing in on in this episode. And one of them is definitely about being able to come to a point of acceptance of all of us, of all of our parts, which it's not as easy as it sounds, but you can do it. Why? Because at the end of the day, these parts which we are comparing, they're just stories which we're inventing in our mind about stuff. And the real unstoppable part of us, the real, the real us, the unstoppable part, which is kind of like watching this story going on and listening to the brain jabbering on about making up its stories about comparing stuff. That part of us is whole, it is complete, and it's not affected in any way whatsoever by these stories which we invent ourselves, which we invent about ourselves and our situations. Now, I'm not saying that things don't exist. I'm not saying that people haven't told you that your nose is funny, or that your hair's weird, or that oh you look a bit old, your beard's getting a bit grey now. But the thing is that how much, but the thing is, how much you actually start buying into that, is depends on the story that you kind of keep telling yourself in your mind about these things. And quite often, it's we kind of build it up to be something that it's not. And we are comparing ourselves and we're telling ourselves, other people won't like me. I won't be able to fit in because of X, Y, or Z. And actually, it's completely untrue. People just haven't even, that one person who told you, who mentioned it, or it was just like a stupid joke at some time, about whatever. The other 100 people that just don't even notice it. They're too busy with, worrying about themselves to worry about, what's going on with you. Um, and um, and and yeah, that's what that's what I thought was a very important point to be able to to bring up, was just that. That being able to accept, because at the end of the day, we're all human and we are all different. And I mean, what you were saying as well, I think it kind of reminds me a little bit of the episode the other week when you were with Jaden, and it kind of starts fitting in as well about this kind of like staying in your lane.
Mm-hmm.
You know, being courageous and accepting, the different parts of you, the gifts that you have available. When you were talking with Jaden, he was he started originally. He was just kind of like a little bit. I don't know. He wasn't. He didn't want to get into his scooting too much because he perhaps didn't think it was too cool, or he thought he'd better do something else cooler instead. He wanted to hang out with the skateboarding guys because they were cool, or whatever. You can talk about this a bit more, but I think it came up to me. There's definitely something here about in accepting parts of us, about that episode that we were talking about, kind of staying in our lane, and being courageous and just moving forward with the gifts that we have to share with the world.
Yeah, Simon. What had, in reference to the conversation about Jaden, and also what you're saying about what's coming up for me is like accepting who you are, right? When you wish you would be different, I sort of said already, like, ask yourself why. Is it because you are comparing yourself, or you're trying to please someone else? But another thing to think about is, if you're going to try to be different than you are, that's going to be a whole lot harder to do than being better at being who you are, right? So I would love to just kind of like steal the ball back if I can. Like, I'm going to do one of those fun, basketball moves where I come around behind you and take the ball. Or
I love
maybe
that. What you just said. Just say that again. Can you repeat that? What you just said?
about stealing the ball. No. So,
No, about how it's a lot easier.
yeah. So this is the deal. If you're going to try to be me, Simon, because you
Yeah.
think it would be different and it would be better to be me, it'll
Mhm.
be a lot harder for you to get good at the stuff that I'm good at than it will be for you to get better at the stuff that you're good at.
Right.
One of us has the stuff that we're naturally good at. And if
Yeah.
just
That's the staying in your lane.
if we could just focus on being the best that we can be at the stuff that we're naturally good at, or the things that we're naturally interested in, which is a part of accepting ourselves, right? Like, it's part of deciding, you know what, I'm enough. What I've got going on is good, and I'm going to get even better at it. What I notice is that when people do that, when they do what adults call lean into, or as we said, stay in their lane, then they can perfect what they do in a way that makes it stand out. It makes it more special, and it ends up getting them the attention, the admiration, um, the attractiveness, where they draw friends and people who admire them and want to be in their company, more than when you try to be good at what other people are good at. So the challenge,
Love that.
steal it from you, is
Yeah. I knew there was a challenge coming.
I want to challenge everybody to think about something that they wish about themselves sincerely. Like, you can be honest with Monique, okay? You can tell me. I'll still be your friend, I promise. Something that you wish were different, okay? Maybe it is a physical feature, maybe it's a skill or a talent, maybe it's a struggle that you have. Like, we've talked about math a lot. That was the bane of my existence when I was a child. Like, whatever it is, for crying out loud, it might be how good a brother or sister you are. Like, whatever it is, think about that thing that you wish were different about you. Okay. I'm going to throw in another one. Maybe a special person in your life, in your opinion, doesn't value you as much as somebody else. In your opinion, the other person is the favorite, and you wish that were different. I want to challenge every single person listening or watching to think about something about yourself that you wish were different. And then just ask yourself, but how could this be a good thing? How could I celebrate this? In what world would it be cool that I fill in the blank, right? Like, whatever it is that you fill in the blank with, and then maybe just give a little bit of energy to being better at whatever that thing is that you wish were different. I'm just curious, like if you took yourself down an imaginary road where you literally wrote down a list of things that could happen if you got better and better and better at that thing that you wish were different. Now, we're always not talking about unethical things. We're always not talking about bad things. We're always not talking about harming ourselves or others. Okay. But outside of the category of those kinds of things, I just challenge you to like, what would happen if I celebrated this? What would happen if I got better and better at this? Let your imagination ask you that question and just share where it goes. I would love to hear, like, if you wrote down 10 things, what would be at the end of that list? It would be so interesting to have like this imaginary outcome that could be the result of, I got better and better at this thing that I used to think stunk, and I wish that it could change. I don't know if that is even a clear challenge, Simon. If what I said makes sense or not, please clean it up for everybody because I really want to see their idea of the inspiration station.
I would love to, but the thing is that you didn't hear what was going on whilst you were actually setting the challenge. A plane was flying over my house. The noise cancellation, like obviously, I don't think you heard it going over. It was deafening. I could hardly even hear what you were saying. So
My
it,
facial
it is going to be a little bit difficult for me to go back and clear up
so I'll calm down.
what you were talking about, the challenge.
For the second time in our call, just to be sure that it's clear, I'll challenge everybody. I'll say it one more time, what I want you to do on the inspiration station, okay? So link to the inspiration station, which is the place that we invite our watchers, our viewers, our followers, subscribers to go and interact with us and interact with each other. There's a link to it in the description of this show, the Unstoppable Live show, okay? Go to that link, look for the post from today that will invite you on this challenge. And what we want you to do is think of something that you wish were different about yourself. And then ask yourself, but what if I celebrated this? What if I got even better at it? And then let yourself 10 times write what you think could possibly happen if you got better and better at that thing. And then tell us what is the imaginary possibility that you create when you get down to number 10. That's your challenge. Okay.
Wow.
I want to hear what you could envision is possible out of something that if you could be honest and you had a magic wand, you would wave it away. Let's just play a game and figure out how could it be so good? Okay. So that's the challenge.
Love it. Yeah, I think that was clear. And like you said, we'll be posting it on the Inspiration Station when you come and play with us. And yeah, just tell us how you get on.
Tell us how you're getting on, guys. I love that.
And
I got to call everybody yippies today, Simon. Did you catch that at the beginning?
you did what, sorry?
Called everybody yippies at the beginning.
You did.
I've been waiting since.
Is that the first time?
It's the first time. I've been.
Hooray! You talked about that from the very beginning of the show.
And I'm like, oh, the yippies. I'm so excited.
You have let the cat out of the bag now. You are now free to use that term going forward.
You don't actually have to own that identity. I just happen to think it's really funny and cute. But
yeah,
sure.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, me too.
Oh, anyway, yeah.
So, guys, we want to hear how you're getting on. Come and play with us. And yeah, when you start to accept these parts of you that previously you were thought was some kind of problem, or you couldn't quite work it out what was going on, guys, you will unleash, you'll let the cat out of the bag, and you will start becoming unstoppable. We believe in you guys. Have a great week. Visit us on the Inspiration Station, and we will see you next week.